Again, thank you all for being here. Welcome to our annual Summer Club Showcase. And we will start off with Joseph Francisco, who will share with us the land acknowledgement. All yours, Joseph.
Hi, everyone. First, we want to begin our showcase with a land acknowledgement that reflects and supports the Indigenous communities here in the Pacific Northwest. I know that many of us are situated and currently located away from Seattle and Washington. So as I read this, please keep in mind the Indigenous communities where you are located. As we begin our gathering, we respectfully acknowledge that our event today is taking place on the homelands of the Coast Salish people who continue to steward these lands and waters as they have since time immemorial. We recognize tribal nations and organizations who actively create, shape, and contribute to our thriving community at Seattle University and beyond. We as an academic community should be and are committed to doing our part to engage with and amplify the voices of Native peoples and tribes. We acknowledge our collective responsibility to advance proper education of Native peoples and tribes and call for further learning and action to support the Native people of this land. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Joseph, for sharing the land acknowledgement with us. Joseph is the president of the United Filipino Club and one of our panelists today. Hi, everyone. Thank you again for joining us for the third annual Summer Club Showcase. The Center for Student Involvement, in partnership with the orientation programs, is so excited and grateful to have such talented moderators and panelists willing to be part of this year's showcase. Also sending a big thank you to you, the audience, first years and new transfer students arriving this fall, for your participation and interest in clubs on Seattle University's campus. At our office at Center for Student Involvement, affectionately called CSI, we have the honor and privilege of partnering with our club communities and their amazing leadership. And you'll have the opportunity to meet and listen to a group of panelists composed of club student leaders and learn about their journey and experiences with campus involvement, club communities, and their leadership roles. They're a part of a bigger club community on campus, and Seattle U has over 150 recognized clubs. Seattle University clubs and orgs contribute so much to the social, cultural, political, and learning landscapes of our campus, and sometimes beyond campus. And truly, clubs and orgs are what we call the lifeblood of student engagement on campus. With that, my name is Angel Asuncion Reed. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the assistant director here at the Center for Student Involvement, and I have the great honor of working with our clubs and student leaders on campus. And today we are joined by Eunice and DK as our panel moderators. Eunice was an invaluable student leader at the International Student Center, was a valuable student committee member of the Legacy event, International Dinner, and was a member of the Society of Women Engineers. DK was a student leader also at the International Student Center and a key member of the SU International Student Association, otherwise known as SUISA. And Eunice and DK will speak a little bit more about their student roles in a moment. But first, Eunice and DK will speak about our community agreements in this space. They'll be speaking more a little bit about their involvement experiences during their time at SU, what they're doing currently post-grad. So please help me give them a warm welcome to Eunice and DK.
Thank you so much. Yeah, let's go through the community agreements real quick. First of all, take care of yourself. This panel is going to be around 90 minutes, so make sure that you take care of your needs, take breaks and hydrate and all those good things that you need to make sure to get through this call. What's said here stays here, and what's learned here leaves here. This is a basic way to request respect and privacy of individuals within the group space, as these students share their leadership narratives. Additionally, with the component of lifelong learning opportunities, where you are challenged to take the next step to share information with others who are not in the same learning space in a confidential matter. WAIT, which stands for why am I talking? What is your intention by speaking? Instead of speaking for the sake of speaking, ask the open-ended question and be quiet, because that is also leadership. And when you get to that uncomfortable moment of silence, it is natural to want to fill that silence and start talking. But avoid the temptation, let the silence do that lifting for you. And that's how we all learn together. I statements. Make sure that you don't speak for anyone else. You can only speak to your own truths and experiences, so please be mindful of that.
And I'll talk about the other list that we have here. Next one is trust intent, name impact. So someone's intent is what they think or feel during an action or conversation, or maybe what they thought what they were doing, right? So impact refers to how the action or conversation makes the other person feel. So if someone, says or does something that is hurtful or inappropriate, so you have the right to tell them in a respectful way, of trusting that they did not mean harm. The other one is take space, make space, move up, move back. So it's much like wait, what DK talked about. So it's like be mindful of your time speaking, chatting, and asking questions. And the last one that I'll be talking about is don't yuck someone's yum, right? So it actually means what I'm saying, right? So what you're thinking about. So don't criticize this thing others like. If you don't like something or what someone else does, don't spoil their joy. And then I'll go ahead and then present myself. My name is Eunice Lubemba. I am originally from the Congo, but currently live in California, Sacramento. I transferred to SU Seattle University in 2018 as a transfer student from Bellevue College. And then in my time at SU, I majored in electrical engineering, and I graduated in 2022, June 2022, with a bachelor's degree. And while I was at Seattle U, I was part of the Society Women Engineer. I had the opportunity of attending a lot of conferences and then being part of a lot of opportunities through that club. And then at the same time, I was part of the International Student Center office. I worked there as a desk assistant and for some time as a programming assistant. And then while working there, I had the opportunity to volunteer to a lot of events, for example, international dinner, orientations, and so on.
Awesome. And I'll introduce myself too. Hi, my name is DK. I was also a part of the same office as Eunice when I was at Seattle University, the International Student Center, and I had the opportunity to connect with our international students. Some of the leadership roles that I was a part of was the Fukuoka program, where we had transfer students come from Japan and come and have language exchange programs throughout the summer. So I was able to share the culture that the international students brought as well, but really kind of showing what life is like as a student who goes to college in the US as well. So today we're really honored to have this opportunity to be able to moderate and connect with the people who are on the chat and with our panelists as well. Before we move on, we just really want to encourage students to check your emails. There is a fall orientation that will be coming up soon as well. So make sure there will be a link that will be shared on the chat. And if you go to that orientation link, you'll be able to be involved in more events that are coming up. And yeah, just really wanted to remind that for everyone. So I think from here, we'll go over the questions that we have for the panelists as well. We have 7 questions that we want to ask in total, but like we mentioned, just be mindful of time, and we'll ask the club leaders to also provide their name, pronouns, and what club they are representing before we go into that question. So if Eunice, you want to go ahead?
Yes. Yeah, thank you so much, DK. I will now start with the first question that we have for our panelists. So what initially drew you to this club you are presenting today? And then what were the guiding factors in making that decision? So you can start by saying your name, your pronouns, and then answer the question.
All right, I can get us started. My name is Grace Wynn. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm here representing two clubs. First one is Circle K International, CKI for short. And we're a service club. If you heard of Key Club, we're like the college version of that. And we do service events in Seattle. And then the other one I'm representing is the Asian Pacific Islander Desi American Student Association, APIDA for short, because that is definitely a mouthful. But we are a club for Asian identifying students to join. But yeah, because I'm representing two, I'll just do one at a time. But I joined CKI because I did community service throughout high school, and I was like, I want to keep doing this in college. And I do have to say that my experiences have been influenced by COVID because I joined SU as a freshman, and because that my whole first year was online. But I was looking for a community, and I found CKI through Connect SU, and I went to their meetings, and we've been able to kind of have more in-person events, and that's definitely been a blast. And for APIDA, I joined last year. It's a new organization too, so I've enjoyed that we've been able to kind of talk about like the social justice aspects of like being an Asian person, and we've been able to like discuss our experiences and our challenges, but then we've also been able to like come together and share unique parts of our culture. So I've really enjoyed the community that I've been able to build with that, and the people that I've been able to meet outside of my major.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Grace. Who would like to go next?
Hey, fine.
Yeah, Zane, I see your hand up.
Do you want to mute?
Oh, I think you're muted right now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to do this on my phone because I found out this morning as I was trying to set things up for this meeting that my computer no longer has audio. So we're improvising today. So hi, my name is Zane. I use they them pronouns, and I'm rising third year at Seattle University. And today I'm representing ASL Club, and I'm also representing Jewish Student Union. So the thing that drew me to ASL Club is the fact that I was born deaf, and ASL is my first language. And so I joined the club as a way of finding other people to sign with, because I was really excited about finding a deaf community on campus, because I wasn't aware of the fact that we had people that signed on campus. And then I joined Jewish Student Union because I'm Jewish and I'm going to a Catholic university, which sometimes makes you feel like a fish out of water. And so it was nice to know that there was a community of Jewish people on campus as well. So that's why I ended up joining.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Zane.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
I can go next. So hi, my name is Lee. I use he and pronouns, and I'm also a rising junior. So I'm currently representing Hidaka Taiko, which is a SU's basically a Japanese or traditional Japanese drumming group, and we basically perform at various campus events. And something that initially drew me in was just the wow factor of watching like the performances. I got to see their performances through like the YouTube channel that they have, and it was just like really cool to watch. Something I wanted to join. I just joined it and found out the community and in the club, like it was very welcoming, and I really enjoyed my time there, and it really simulated like an ensemble experience as well. If you're familiar with like orchestra or band or choir or something from high school, I did orchestra in high school, and it brings back feelings of that kind of ensemble experience that I had from high school that I really enjoyed. So those two things really are what kept me with Hidaka, and now I'm the co-president and representing us here today.
Thank you so much.
I can go next.
Okay.
My name is Sarah. I use they, them pronouns, and I am one of the co-presidents of the Pink Triangle Club on campus, which is our LGBT like social club. And I joined because I was in a similar club in high school, and I loved having that like community like very readily available. And it's nice to just like be around other people in kind of a social, laid back setting. Sorry, my door's open. I'm sorry if you hear any background noise. And I was also really interested in some of the events that we put on. Like we have an annual drag show that we put on. And I thought it was super cool that we do stuff like that and have stuff like that for students to come see. So that was another reason that I decided to join.
Awesome, wonderful. I think we have, yeah, Joseph, if you want to go ahead.
Hi, I'm Joe, he, him pronouns. I'm an upcoming senior, and I'm the president of the Filipino Club, UFC for short. And in high school, I never really had a Filipino club. So going into college, I was interested in like just learning more about my culture and just joining a club specifically for Filipino culture. And so that was really the main like factors that got me to keep staying in the club and being like one of the student leaders all 4 years. So yeah.
Yeah, I'll go next. My name is Seamus Cleary, class of 2024, so rising junior. And I'm the president of the Albers Investment Club and the leadership program. I joined the investment club just to kind of continue my interest in markets and some of the things I was doing there, and ended up being a great way to meet people thinking the same way and interested in the same sort of things, both career-wise and you know, just outside of school as well. And then the leadership program was a great academic course, which I recommend for all first and second year students. So it's a 2-part course where you learn business leadership concepts, and then in that second part of the course, you get to apply it in a real setting and present to university board members. And then after the course is finished, you're able to speak with alumni of the course, and you have access to program events. So I think it was more so just interest in being involved, and that's why clubs are probably one of the best ways to do that. You.
All right. And last but not least, Wishi, if you want to.
I'm Oishi or Yoshi. I go by either. Don't really care. Pronouns are they, them. I'm a rising senior. I am, so I'm a founder / president of a new club, Infinity Club. We're starting in the fall, actually. Super excited about that. Yeah, so I started that because I found it kind of difficult as a so Infinity Club is for neurodistinct individuals. And I found it like difficult as a neurodistinct individual to like really be able to like immerse myself in a community where I don't feel the need to mask. Masking in the neurodistinct community is like basically trying to appear neurotypical. Yeah, so like I just really wanted a community for neurodistinct individuals to be able to connect and really be themselves. Yeah, and then I'm also sort of representing that club. I'm just a member, but like, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, for sharing your clubs and yeah, which clubs you are representing. Let's move on to the next question. Eunice, if you want to.
So the next question, we'll talk about the challenges that you faced when you were involved in, regarding your involvement in your clubs.
I can start. This might be kind of a cop out, but like I joined during COVID, so a lot of it was virtual, which was really hard to like kind of make community when you're in a virtual setting. So I think one of the challenges was just like figuring out how to navigate and like have a club meeting virtually that like works well and still like, you know, is fun for people. So I think that was a big challenge, but it worked well and we made it through.
That's nice.
Yeah, and bouncing off what Sarah said, like going through COVID and like having those Zoom meetings, that was rough, especially when students were already like feeling pretty fatigued with like already doing like, who knows, like maybe 6 hours of classes in a day. But once we were able to move into like in-person meetings, that was nice. But then I always had the worry of like, I want my like members to feel welcome. How can we do this? And I found that a way to do that is just like making sure that when people come to meetings, like go chat with them and kind of get to know them. Because as I said earlier, a way that I've really enjoyed clubs is just getting to know so many more people. And because of that, for like CKI, we've been able to do socials and also service events in person, which is definitely better than online. And for me, I like meeting people like while doing things because like if there's a lull in the conversation, we can just like focus on what we're working on, but then I can get to know them through that as well. So making sure people feel welcomed, I've been really able to learn how to do that, and I've been able to get to know a bunch of people.
Okay, I'm gonna jump in here as well. And I will say that as someone who's a commuter student, the most challenging thing for me about joining clubs was the fact that I didn't know which clubs on campus existed because, you know, I live on Bainbridge, so I wasn't as connected to like individuals within the campus community. And so that was difficult for me because I wasn't entirely sure what clubs were out there. And so most of the clubs that I've joined and have become like a part of the leadership on, I've stumbled into by accident by friends who were like, hey, you should check out this club. And that's how I found out about it. Like, I only really discovered Connect SU a couple of months ago, even though I'm a rising junior. So.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Do we have any other panelists who want to share a little bit more about the challenges or how they overcame them?
Yeah, I could jump in. Well, I mean, founding a club is kind of complicated in general, but I think one of the biggest things for me is like managing my anxiety. I think like I'm very much used to being like, you know, an individual person in a project, like just like kind of doing whatever I'm told to do, or just doing individual projects where I'm like just solo projects. I think like, you know, being the one like kind of overseeing the whole thing is terrifying. And I think one of the biggest things I've learned is to lean on the other team members. Like that's a work in progress. I think that's one of the biggest ways to combat that anxiety. It's also like delegating is also a challenge for me because I'm like, I want to do it all myself. Yeah, so I think, yeah, those are the main things in terms of, yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. So I guess, do we move on to the next question? So our next question,
Yeah, we can move on to the next question.
Yeah, I really love what Yoshi said about especially leaning on other people because we're not in this alone, right? So but there's always people around us. And then this literally tied to our next question that will to our panelists, it's like, who are some of your mentors of the support system? Do We have someone want to start off?
I can start. Yeah, I was just thinking for a little for that one, but I think for me, my mentors were definitely just the previous like officer board members that have graduated now. They definitely for Taiko, they are the people who taught us like how like our form and how to play songs and stuff like that and how to perform and stuff. So they are definitely the people that I look up to. Like I want to they have years of Taiko under their belt and I only have like a fraction of that. So I definitely want to be like try and live up to what the standard they set out to have. And in terms of support systems, I definitely just will lean on my co-president and lean on the rest of my officer board to try to hopefully get things done that I am unable to because of either time or just ability of restriction, stuff like that. And so definitely just leaning on everyone else that is there to help manage the club with me.
Yeah, that's kind of similar to me. A lot of my mentors were upperclassmen, like when I was a freshman, and then even now it's just like those who graduated and were in the president position, because they're like kind of like telling me like or giving me tips on like do's and don'ts of leading the club and like mistakes they made so that like I don't make those same mistakes. So yeah, it's really just like upperclassmen for me.
Yeah, I think those are all great answers. I'd probably say the same thing. And so, what does that mean for incoming students? Just means don't be afraid to reach out to somebody who, you might want to talk to or who has some experience that you think would be valuable for you. For me, it was, a guy who was a junior and I was a freshman and he already had a couple of internships under his belt or whatever. And, it was kind of hesitant to reach out to him initially because I think it was over Zoom and, he thought he might not want to, help me. But, I was definitely wrong about that. People are here to help you succeed. And honestly, people who are board members or presidents of their club take a lot of pride in helping someone younger than them and then seeing them grow in whatever that is. So I think you'll be pleasantly surprised if you just try to reach out to people more than you might feel comfortable with and say, hey, it just depends on, what you're interested in, obviously, but yeah, that's what I would recommend.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really true. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to agree with what everyone said about how important it is to kind of lean on like officer boards because there are a bunch of like different parts to like running a club and there's like the marketing part, but then there's also like fundraising to make sure we can like be able to have like really fun events and they're really important. And something else is just having my friends around me because they've been able to help me have like that work-life balance between like classes, clubs, and just like making sure that I'm enjoying college and being able to explore Seattle more. So that's also been a really great part. And some of these people I have met through clubs and I've been able to like sustain relationships through clubs. So it's a really nice time to like be like, oh yeah, like when I go to that meeting, I'll see this person and I'll like, we're able to chat and catch up.
These are some great answers that we've heard. So thank you everybody for sharing that. We can move on to the next question. And the next question is, what is the most fun highlights or any experiences that you have had in your club? And how's that made you into the person that you are today?
I can start this off. So one of my like most fun highlights was being in charge of our big like kind of big annual performance called Barrio. I was in charge of it last year, and being in charge of that helped me kind of figure out my leadership style because I had to one supervise like all our different committees, like food committee, decorations. I had to help supervise all of that, as well as communicating with like other clubs if they wanted to perform or like sending emails to Angel or our event coordinator. And so just doing all of that, as well as like leaning onto my co-chair for Barrio. Yeah, it just definitely helped me figure out like who I am as a person, my leadership style, and whether or not I wanted to pursue like a higher role in the club, which I ended up doing. So.
I can go next. For me, so since my club is like a social club essentially, one of the things that I really love about it is just like the consistency of seeing like the same people every week and like getting to know everyone. And it's really cool to just see like all the people in the club also like make friends with each other. I think it's really fun and like nice to see that community kind of build. So that's one of the highlights for sure, is just like getting to know the people in my club. And then another one, kind of like Joseph was talking about, is like hosting an event is really like rewarding when it goes super well. And since my club also hosts some events, it's always a highlight to like see them do well and see people excited to be there and stuff like that.
Okay, I'm gonna add on to that as well. So my first event that I planned for Jewish Student Union was before I was officially on the leadership board at all. And so it was a few months after I had initially joined the club, and I planned an event in conjunction with the Holocaust Center for Humanity in Seattle, because I happened to be interning there, and so I was able to plan an event for Yom HaShoah, which is the Day of Remembrance regarding the Holocaust. And I think the biggest thing that came out of that for me was the fact that it instilled the belief in myself that I would actually be able to have a leadership role and I could handle the planning that came along with having a leadership role. And that was very important to me, because even though in the back of my mind I knew what I was capable of, it really cemented for me that I should be confident in my abilities and that I would be an excellent fit for a leadership role, and I would be able to lead people in the future after our past team graduated.
Thank you so much for sharing all those answers. So I'll go ahead and then move to my next question.
I think Grace said.
Yeah, no worries.
Sorry.
Just making sure everyone can speak. But for me, CKI, we have a like annual like holiday gathering, and it's kind of like a nice little cozy baking time where towards the end of fall quarter, we were able to get together and just bake a bunch of like yummy cookies and baked goodies and share those, while also doing little games like we had like a pie and officer fundraiser, got a pie in the face for that. Was not fun, but it was for the club. And we were able to also incorporate service where we could write cards to the Seattle Children's Hospital. So that was something that we did last year, and we're going to continue doing it this year. And then for APIDA, towards the beginning of winter quarter, it was online, which sucked, but we were able to make do with that because we celebrated Lunar New Year online, and I was able to collaborate with another officer and be like, yeah, here are ways that like me as a Vietnamese person, as like, here's how we celebrate Lunar New Year. And she was able to talk about how she celebrates it as a Chinese person. So it was really great to be able to talk about what similarities there were, what differences there were, like what superstitions and like what foods we ate. So that was a really great way to just kind of see how other people did it. And then we also opened it up to our community members to be like, here's like what I celebrate like as a Japanese person. And we were able to learn a lot through that. And I'm hoping that this year, hopefully COVID is better and we're able to celebrate in person with like all those foods and decorations that we love.
Great. Yeah, that was Great, Grace. I think one event that stood out for me was the willingness of people in kind of quality work positions to just speak with you, especially if you're a young university student, something I mentioned in the last meeting. But for example, our leadership program, we were able to speak with the CFO of Seattle University. Great guy, grew up in Brazil, went to Harvard Business School, worked at Microsoft for a long time, and now he's the financial officer of the university. And we were able to speak with him about his path through his career, how he views business leadership and quality business leadership, managing teams, things like that. And that's not really something that I would have thought, someone like that would have time for, but you'd be surprised if you can really leverage the fact that you're young, you're in university, you're a part of something that they might relate to or they might like, and you can create some valuable connections that way. So whatever it is, whether it's whatever club you're a part of, I think the fact that you're young and in school, people really gravitate towards that. So speaking of that, the alumni network at Seattle U, I would certainly try to tap into that as much as possible as well.
Do we have anybody else on the panelist who would like to share about the question? If not, we can move on to the next one too.
Okay, I'll go ahead and ask our next question, which is there such a thing as being too involved? So I know some of us here are part of like multiple clubs. So explain to us if there is such a thing as being too involved.
Oh, do you want to go? Oh, okay, I'll go. Sorry. So I believe, yes, there is a limit to being too involved. I myself this past year was a part of I think 4 or 5 different clubs and organizations, and I have to say it definitely took its toll on all the time that I have. So I'd have classes, then I have to do homework, and then sometimes some days I'd have a club meeting, or maybe it was an event hosted by the club that I want to go support because I was part of it. And especially during spring quarter, when many cultural clubs have events every weekend, essentially, it will be very, very draining since you're so far into the year at that point. And so you can, and in my experience, I would say you can be too involved, and to make sure to give yourself space. And even if you're part of, let's say, 3 clubs, and you want to support that club with everything they do, and you're going to all their events and stuff like that, just remember you don't have to go to their events or all the events or every meeting to still be part of that club or to still support them. You can still be a member and support them with not missing one general meeting or missing one event in the fall, stuff like that. Definitely give yourself time, give yourself space, because you need that to recharge. You need that for your own well-being. So that's my answer to that question.
I think adding on to that, as someone who tends to take on a lot, my thing that I would say, even though I'm totally going to sound like your favorite Jewish mother when I say this, is always put your academics first, regardless of how much fun you are having with your clubs. If you get to a point of not being able to fit academics into your schedule, then you need to take something off of your plate, because you are in college to learn as well as be social. So if you can't find a good solid balance between those things, then you're doing too much. And I say this as someone who at one point took 25 credits in a corner, worked part-time, was in 3 different clubs, and commuted from Bainbridge Island to Seattle University.
Thank you so much for sharing that and giving your advice.
been a lot of homework on the ferry, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, Oishi, I think you wanted to share.
Yeah, I wanted to add on. I think from my experience, burnout is a thing that like kind of sneaks up on me. I don't know about anybody else, but it's just kind of like one of those things where like you keep going, and then like if you don't pace yourself, you reach a point where like your brain just kind of starts not functioning at all for any on the things you're doing because the burnout is so bad. And I think one of the, I mean, when you're involved in so many things, you want to continue to be able to be involved in them. And so it's very important. I heard at one point, it's not about time management, it's about energy management. I think it was actually at a Seattle leadership workshop or something. Because time stays steady, but your amount of energy, it fluctuates. So I think managing your energy is very important as you like, take on however much you're going to take on.
Learning something new today. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I would also say that there is such thing as being too involved. Because I like joined clubs and I joined SU when it was all online. I decided to jump in, join a bunch of different clubs to meet people, and then being the type of person I am, I decided to join leadership roles because I enjoy being able to work with an officer board and being able to influence the club in that way. But once we started moving on into in person, I was like, wow, this is a lot, and my classes were getting harder. So from this, I was able to like learn about how to like prioritize, like I really enjoy this club more than this one. So I was able to see what I would want to be a leader of and then what I would be okay being a member of. So I was able to kind of weigh those balances. So as an incoming student, if you're looking for a bit of advice, I would say to, when you join clubs, just maybe test the waters a little, see if you would enjoy it, see how classes are treating you, and then decide from there if you would like to like be a leader in that club, because there are like new student rep positions that you can join as an incoming student. And then also, as Lee mentioned earlier, there are also opportunities to help out with cultural club events, which happen usually in spring quarter. And I've helped with some of them and they're really fun and rewarding, as Joseph said.
Thank you.
Just want to make sure that everybody has a chance to share their thoughts. And if not, that's okay. We can move on to the next question. So yeah, my next question is, what did your involvement in high school, or if you were a transfer student to Seattle U, so community college, look like, and how did that transfer to your involvement at Seattle University currently right now?
At least for me, I was also super involved in high school and kind of took on a lot, which transferred just the same into college. But I think there's a lot of like learning experiences of like what it's like to lead a club in college versus high school. It's like very different. But I would say it's kind of similar in that like I'd already kind of like learned how to do some of the leadership stuff and then just got to like build upon it once I got to college, which was really cool. But I would say the clubs are a lot more like fun, I guess, and maybe like involved in college because you get a little bit more freedom to like do different things and like go different places. But yeah, I would say it's maybe about the same, but it's been good.
Yeah. Oh, you want to go, Joseph? Okay.
You can go first.
All right, sorry. But I would say I was also super involved in high school. But the difference with how I was in high school and how I am now in college is that in high school I was again part of like multiple clubs, but I let that drag on and I was involved the entire way through high school, and it became boring to a point because I was just, if sometimes it felt like a chore. But now in college I definitely paced myself with a lot of the clubs that I didn't enjoy as much, or that I felt like I didn't have to prioritize as much. And with now being an officer member, I definitely prioritize my club that I'm running more, and leave more time for myself and less time thinking that I have obligations that are not actually obligations.
For me, I was more involved in high school stuff than I am now. Like high school, I was part of 2 sports teams and then 2 different clubs. But I think like for me in high school, like being that involved in high school was a lot easier just because my class schedule was pretty much the same every single day. So I knew how to like manage school a lot easier. Like transitioning into college, my schedules change every quarter. So like for me, I have to get used to my school schedule first before I can even involve myself in other stuff.
We have someone else want to share with us.
I could share because mine's a little bit different. Before Seattle U, I don't think I was ever actually part of a club. Oh wait, no, I was part of debate club for like 1 week in high school. So it's interesting because like before Seattle U, I mainly just my entire world was school and music, and that was it. Mostly because people terrified me. I think one of the wonderful things about like Seattle U organizations and Seattle U in general is it really emphasizes leadership and acceptance of people. I think that's one of the reasons I ended up going from like not at all involved to like joining 1,000 different clubs and then founding a club. So I don't know. I don't know that anything transferred, but something definitely changed. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. And I really appreciate you sharing, and we're happy that you're taking on those leadership roles.
Yeah, so I can pop in. For me, as I said at the very beginning, I was pretty involved in my community throughout high school, but it was mostly through it was a club that I like was the like lead coordinator of, where I taught science classes to elementary school kids. So it was definitely more of a specific focus. But now as a member of CKI and a leader, I've been able to kind of expand from just service to also including like socials and opportunities for our members to get to know each other, because there is the importance of like highlighting school, but then there's also parts where we've been able to have fun and go places as a club. And I think Sarah mentioned this, where it's like you can go a lot more places now that we're in college and there's so much to do in Seattle. So that's a part that I've really enjoyed about being in a college club. And for APITA, a reason I joined SU was because there's like, I noticed that there was a significant enough population, student population of like Vietnamese students or like other Asian students, where we could have clubs that were like VSA, JSA, UFC, that sort of thing, where we could have clubs with shared experiences. And because of that, I was involved in like the Asian Student Union in my high school. And I'm glad that we've been able to have that community here. And I'm glad that I've been able to join and help a lot with APITA.
Do we have someone else who would like to share with us? Go ahead.
There we go. It only took like a good 30 seconds. One thing that I will say that I think carried over with me from high school, which is kind of interesting now that I think about it, is the ASL piece of it. Because when I was in high school, I did all of the ASL translations for theater productions at our school. And so I was in the shows like as a character, but I was also doing the ASL for all of the other characters as well. And I guess it's something that really stuck with me as well because before I got to Seattle U, I was volunteering in special ed education classrooms and teaching nonverbal students to sign. And I did that for, I think, a good 10 years. And so I guess the thing that I really carried with me in terms of now being a part of this ASL club is the fact that language is something that unites people, even if you're not expecting to find common ground with them. And I think that's a really important lesson that I will continue to carry with me for the rest of my life, that will also inspire me to learn other languages and teach people who are not deaf ASL, because I think it's really important to bridge the divide between different communities.
So much for sharing. Do we have someone else who want to share with us?
Yeah, I would just say that I think, like, regardless of how involved you were in high school, you know, it's always a good idea to kind of take college as a new beginning. And if you weren't super social in high school, try to be more social in college and see where it gets you. If you were super social in high school, continue to be that way, because it's probably just a good thing to be social in general. But yeah, in terms of my experience, you know, I played quarterback at my high school and played baseball. Unfortunately, I graduated 2020, I think, like many of my panelists. So my baseball season didn't exist that senior year, and I was captain. That was tough, right? And so, you know, I was looking for some form of ownership, some form of leadership, and the clubs, you know, at SU programs are the main way to get there. And I can be, whether you're, you know, my first year, I didn't have I wasn't a part of any boards, so to speak, but implementing forms of emergent leadership, you know, trying to show up to every meeting, coming with a new idea in the investment club, or, you know, something I'm really interested in, bringing it up, and people who are older than you will see that. And so it's just, you know, just about trying to be super engaged.
Sharing with us. I think we have everyone more. So we can go ahead and then move to our last question, which is a fun question. So, so describe your academic year, right? So in one word. So in one word, what are you looking forward to in this academic year? Go ahead.
Okay, so my one word for what I'm looking forward to in this academic year is learning, because that's, regardless of how involved I am in different clubs, is always my priority. And so I'm looking forward to learning different things in my classes, but I'm also looking forward to getting the opportunity through Jewish Student Union to share some of my knowledge of Jewish history with other club members. And I'm also looking forward to teaching incoming members of ASL Club who don't already sign how to sign. And so I guess learning is kind of a double-edged sword for me, because I will be learning, but I will also be given the opportunity to teach with the skill set that I've acquired thus far.
For me, a word that comes to mind is connections, whether that's connecting with organizations across Seattle that provide services to people, or if it's just talking with other Asian students and being able to make connections between our lives and our cultures.
I'd say for me, the one word, I'd say fun, because it's my last year. I got 2 quarters left, so I'm trying to have like as much fun as I can within like my club or within my classes. And I'm starting an internship this quarter, so I'm looking to have fun with that as well.
That's something I'll choose too. So I love to have fun. Yeah.
For me, I would say I'm looking forward. The word that I would use for the next year is tradition. I'm definitely looking forward to keeping the tradition of my club and trying to like teach incoming freshmen and new members like how to play taiko, teaching the the traditional songs, like and our traditional like events that we usually play at. We usually play at like the VSA's Turkey Bowl or the international dinner and stuff like that. I want to keep doing these things over like that we historically have done before, because it's just so much fun.
I think my one word would be community, and just like helping build that for incoming students who are in the LGBT community. Sorry, I'm having horrible allergies. Sorry, I sound so sick. But yeah, mine would be community, just building it and meeting the new people who come into the club.
I would say impact, kind of like a butterfly or domino effect. You know, it's pretty crazy. Like if you, and you'll see it as you rise through the ranks as a college student, but you know, you recommend one thing to a student or one thing to your colleague, and a couple months later, they're, you know, that one thing you did for them translates to a job offer or a newfound interest, or you know, just a whole path. So really is you know, joining a club is an asymmetric opportunity. And by that, I just mean, you know, your downside of joining a club is pretty limited. You know, you join a club and worst thing that happen, you don't like it and you leave. And best thing to happen, you know, it's infinity. You don't really know. Asymmetric.
I think my word would be growth. I am really looking forward to like growing through this brand new experience. I don't think I need to explain that any further.
Awesome. Yeah, those are all the questions that we had for our panelists. Thank you so much, everybody, for sharing what you shared. It's really valuable, and I hope everybody who's in the chat as well really learned a lot from what you guys have to share from your experience and where you're at currently right now too. So I think we'll pass it on to Angel.
I was just enjoying listening to everybody. I'm just I feel very privileged and humbled to work with our club leadership. I'm always so inspired and in awe of all the things that you're doing, and still keep care and still be grounded in who you are. So thank you all for sharing your leadership journey. So for the next before we go into our Q&A, I wanted to share this pre-recorded video of our former president of Black Student Union, Adelia Watson, who graduated in 2020. And she'll be talking about the Black Student Union Endowed Scholarship, the first of its kind, started by Black female students on campus. So if you could be patient with me while I do some logistical things here to play it.
Hi, my name is Adelia Watson. I was the Black Student Union president in 2020 and part of 2021. I was actively involved on campus trying to promote a safer, more Black space on campus, and I was successful with that. I had a lot of ups and downs on campus, but I felt like my time in Black Student Union really made it worthwhile, and I was able to increase the amount of support that Black students on campus were able to get through allyship and community. I was able to deepen my understanding of what it means to build a community that you find safe and comfortable and worth fighting for. In the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd, that really kickstarted a lot of the activism that Black Student Union engaged in on my part during my presidency, and it has been monumental, the amount of change we brought on campus. And for people considering joining Black Student Union, I hope that you'll continue that legacy. Black Student Union I've learned so much about how people can really build community, and that has to continue. We have had our annual event, such as the annual showcase. Back when in my sophomore year, I had just paid a bunch of Seattle-based Black artists to perform, and it's snowballed every year. We paid artists more and more, supporting independent, small Seattle-based artists, and that can be expected for the upcoming year. But one of the biggest, most widespread effort that I'd say I achieved in my presidency that you may know of today is the Black Student Union Scholarship. In just a few months, we raised thousands of dollars, and today that number is well above $150,000 to be able to start the Black Student Union Scholarship. We continuously ask for people to submit donations, whether that be $5, maybe that be $100, or maybe you have some rich relative that's willing to drop $10K on us. We'd appreciate anything contributed to the fund. That is to be able to support Black students and African American students on campus, given that we only make 4% of the Seattle youth population. Yet only about 13% of the United States population. We need to increase the amount of African American students and promote equity on campus. So the Black Student Union is a way to fund and support students, especially as a student like me that survived on scholarships. It would have meant to the world that there was some institution that was willing to contribute to it because I was Black. That was never one of the reasons why I received a scholarship, and I really want that to change for people that are entering college after me. So please contribute to that Black Student Union Scholarship. Sometime during the year, we will be having our Black Student Union Annual Showcase, so make sure to participate that and to attend our meetings coming up throughout the year. You might even see me there one day. But yes, we'd really appreciate any membership, and find a way to contact me if you have any questions about BSU. All right, have a great day.
Thank you for sharing that video, Angel, with us. And now it's the audience's turn to ask the questions for our panelists, our Eunice and myself as well, or Colin or Angel. So if you have any questions, we've already had a couple of Q&As come through, but use the feature on Zoom. And if you have any questions, curiosities, about involvement, leadership, or what kind of club you're interested in as well, feel free to chat in the Q&A section and we will reply. Yes, panelists also feel free to ask each other questions too about each other's clubs.
Thanks for the question, Trinity. I'm wondering if you can clarify what you mean by social set just for clubs.
We don't really do anything with the Pride Parade since our club meetings end before Pride Month starts. And a lot of our students will not be in Seattle during summer because they go back home. So unfortunately, we don't really do much, but we do celebrate a lot in other ways throughout the school year. But unfortunately, just since a lot of our students aren't in the city during Pride, we can't ask them to come back for the parade or anything. But if we do have enough students who want to be involved in the Pride Parade during summer and they are there, we could definitely figure out how to do something. We would just need everyone to be on board with, doing something during the summer after classes end. And I know that's a big ask because it's, the time where you don't have to do anything involving school. But yeah, we could be if you wanted.
Trinity, for your question, I could try giving a stab at that. I know that the best way to get to know clubs probably through taking a scroll through Connect SU, seeing what clubs there are there, because usually they have a little description and sometimes you can see some of their past events. So that's one way you can learn about them. There are also tags that you can filter for if you're looking for maybe an academic club or searching up dance clubs. So there are definitely ways you can search that up. And I'm sure Angel might mention this later, but there is going to be an involvement fair on October 4th. And there'll be a bunch of clubs out there if you want to talk to actual representatives for that. But if you aren't able to make it to that, there's always the person's contact info on Connect SU, or you can go look them up on Insta if you're active on that.
I think we'll just wait a couple more minutes for the Q&A, just in case anybody else has questions to ask. And if not, well, I just want to thank you, everybody, for joining us today for this Zoom call, and really just want to thank our panelists and all our audience members who were here today. If all the panelists could just kind of share their contact info in the chat, that would be wonderful, so that if people are interested in the specific clubs that you are representing, they could reach out to you personally as well. So if I could ask before we exit the call that the panelists just type their contact info there, and just before we wrap everything up, one last time, just really want to mention that we have the Fall Welcome Week coming up soon. It starts on September 17th for a full week as well. There will be a link shared one more time on the chat as well. There is much more detailed information of what events are happening on campus as well. So make sure that you get to check that out if you're interested. And yeah, apart from that, is I was DK, your guys' moderator today, and I'll pass it on to Eunice if you have any other last things you want to say.
No, just thank you so much for being here, hearing the panelists and stuff and asking questions. Thank you so much. And I think DK reminded us about the orientation, and then we had a link, like Lucas said, link in the chat. So you can go ahead and paste another one. Oh, there's another one. So don't forget about the orientation. Check your emails, you get all the information in your emails. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And I want to share a big gratitude to our panelists and also to DK and Eunice, who are master moderators today. And I just appreciate everyone on this gallery right here for joining us and sharing your stories of involvement. The honest truth of all of it, right? So And thank you to the audience. And thank you to Colin, who is behind the scenes here, doing all the production stuff. And to our audience, thank you for joining us. And we can't wait to see you in the fall. So have a great rest of your summer and into actually a cooler weekend this weekend in Seattle. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.